Hey everyone, welcome back to the Points Manifest. I'm Eunice.
And I'm Sarthik. Glad to have you tune in to another episode with us. Today, we're going to talk about where would you like to start this journey of travel hacking and some of the tips and tricks that are very common.
So before we jump into it, quick highlight from my week. My college friend and I were both passing through the Miami airport at the same time, and we got to catch up for an hour before our flights. She was nice enough to leave the AA flagship lounge to hang with us, and it was really nice because I hadn't seen her in over a decade.
Oh, that sounds fun, running into another friend at the airport, especially at the lounge. I remember I bumped into somebody all the way in Doha at the
Hmm.
lounge. And that was so weird. Like we had the same layover timings, and we were departing from different cities, going to different cities, but we still had the same time in lounge. So that was pretty fun. My highlight from last week was I got to do this leadership training over the weekend and learn a lot of good things and how to overcome my inhibitions. That was fun.
Nice. Okay, priorities. So let's dive into the travel headlines. A points brief for this week. There are a couple of new transfer bonuses. So both Chase and Citi are running transfer bonuses to Virgin Atlantic this month, 25% and 30% respectively. So tell me, how would you use your Virgin Atlantic miles?
Well, it's interesting you asked me that, and I think I'm going to punt it back over to you because I have never used it before. Have you?
I've used Virgin for Air France. Sweet spot would be using them for Japan. I think it's lesser known because it doesn't show up on Seats.aero. It also doesn't show up on Virgin Atlantic site when you search for these. What you have to do is a two-step process. If you're on Seats.aero, which is like the points version of Google Flights, gives you like points pricing for different flight awards. What you do is you go to either United's program or Virgin Velocity, which is the Australian version of Virgin. Search for flights that are operated by ANA, and you can book those through Virgin Atlantic if you call in. So, slight barriers to entry because you have to search for it in a particular way and you also have to call in. But the agents are very knowledgeable about this type of booking. I called in twice. Both people knew what I was talking about, was able to pull up the award that I was looking for and confirm the taxes and fees, because otherwise you don't know what the taxes and fees are since it's not available online. When you look it up via United or Virgin Velocity, that's their pricing. It's not the Virgin pricing. With Virgin East Coast or even like Mexico City, it's 60,000 miles, which is amazing because with this transfer bonus, that's either 45 or 42 to get all the way over to Japan. So I really love that. I think it's a really unsung hero of the Virgin program. What
Awesome.
about you? What's cool in your world this week?
I'm from the Bay Area, and all the three airports that we have over here have flights with Southwest. And I had the companion pass with them earlier, and Southwest is one of the only airline I know of that has the companion pass that you can use multiple times. And so my wife and I took advantage of that many times. And to get that companion pass, I had to apply for their credit card. There are some changes coming around with Southwest. They're losing their famous rule of two bags checked, always free. That's no longer going to be the case by the end of May 2025. And they are rewarding their cardholders by giving them one checked bag along with up to eight additional passengers traveling on the same reservations. So nine people can get a free check bag if you have the one of the three credit cards that they offer, the personal cards that they offer. And they also have the business card, which will also get you the check bag.
That's funny. Now we're going from two free checked bags all the time to being excited to have one free checked bag if you have a credit card.
That's right. And that's not all. Southwest was very famous for having an open seating policy as well, meaning that the earlier you board, you get dibs on whatever seat you want, including the first row. Now that's going to change, and you would have to, I'm guessing you'd have to pay for the seats. I don't know what the prices are just yet, but I do know that the credit card holders will also get some dibs on what kind of seat they can select. And it varies based on the card that you have. So bear with me a little bit because different cards have different policies, and the higher you go up in the annual fee, the better it gets. Now, apart from the credit cards, what about people who don't have this credit card? How are they going to be able to select seat? Well, It again depends on what type of fare you select. So there are these four different fare types, which is, I think they're going to come up with new names. So they're going to introduce basic fare. Everyone loves those, right? And then it's the choice fare, I believe. Then there is choice preferred. And then there is the equivalent of business. I don't know the name yet. Maybe it's the business or anytime. I'm not sure. With basic fare, you don't get a seat selection at all. That means they are going to assign you a seat, and you can bet that you're going to be probably sitting in the middle seat if the flight's going to be somewhat full, right? Anyway, so to overcome all this hassle, you can get their credit card. Plus credit card, which is the $70 annual fee, gives you the ability to select a standard seat, which I assume will be like in the back of the plane, either in the aisle or on the window, 48 hours before departure. The Premier card, which is the $100 fee card, will give you a standard or a preferred seat. The difference between a standard and a preferred seat would be like preferred would be a little bit ahead in the plane, so you're not sitting way back. And that's also going to be available to you 48 hours before departure. And then comes the priority card, which is the one I have. And I think that's the one that makes sense is you would get a standard or a preferred seat at the time of booking on any fare type that you select. Additionally, you will get an option to upgrade to extra legroom seating within 48 hours of departure if it's available on any fare type that you book. So it's pretty interesting and gets progressively better based on the card that you have. As a side note, I do want to add that priority card, the annual fee is $150, but it more than makes up for itself in the credits that they give.
That's interesting. As I was listening to describe all that, like all the 48 hours before to select a seat, I think what a lot of people didn't like about their current system of like A through B, 1 through 60, was that you had to check in exactly at 24 hours to be able to get a good spot in that boarding line. And so now they've introduced a different version of that, but 48 hours to select the seat. So I think it's interesting how they're going about it. I never minded that. I really liked being able to like sit anywhere on the plane, whether that was like getting on early because I had like an A boarding group and like getting an exit row seat for the same price. Or if I was like last one on the plane, I could just like squeeze into a middle seat. Like I'm a pretty small person. So being able to squeeze into a middle seat, like towards the front of the plane and like get off early, whatever worked for me that day, I really like the flexibility of that.
I totally agree. Yeah, I am 100% with you. I think the open seating made sense for a lot of us, but well, they got to make some changes over here now.
Okay, let's move on to bookings. What did we book this week?
So I was making an impromptu plan for myself to go to Colombia and visit some of the cities over there. I have heard that they have good historic fortresses, vibrant culture, and a rich history from the Spanish colonial era. And there aren't any direct flights to Colombia from San Francisco, which makes it a little bit challenging to think about which route to take and then how to book it.
Did you know that there's a fifth freedom flight on Emirates, Miami to Bogota? It's 85K round trip in business or 52K in business one way or 60K in first class. I think that's a really great way to experience Emirates first class, a lower price point, obviously fewer number of hours in the air, but if you can shower and have champagne and caviar and all those things, that might be a good option. I know you can also book via Qantas. What were some of the options that you looked up?
Oh, wow. I didn't even know about that. Well, I did consider repositioning to East Coast, but I didn't know that Emirates flew from Miami to Colombia. Anyway, so I did look up that there is a flight from JF on a wide body plane with Avianca, which is the national carrier of Colombia. And that business class was going to be like a lie flat seat that turns into a bed. But then it would have been such a stretch to reposition for, 5, 6 hours from West Coast to East Coast and then another 6 hour flight. If it was all in one itinerary, I wouldn't have mind that since it would cost somewhat similar based on what program I book with. I'm guessing the Miami flight is even shorter, like maybe 3 or 4 hours. My plan is to get the cheapest possible economy seat, which happens to be just shy of 22K points round trip with life miles. In comparison, the round trip economy flight was coming out to be roughly $600 if I were to pay in cash. I think that's a good redemption rate to pay with points. And it's not a wide body plane, so I don't want to spend more on the business seat.
So was that all the way from the Bay Area, the 22K round trip?
Yeah, so 22K round trip includes the one stop in Salvador, either there or in Houston if it's a mixed award ticket from United, like SF to Houston United, and then
Yeah.
Houston to Bogota in Avianca. It was pretty cheap for the dates I wanted. I think you can't beat 22K points round trip. The taxes and fees were coming out to be about $150 to $200 round trip, so I think it's a steal.
That's totally a steal. Are you going to try to upgrade?
If it's feasible, then sure, but I'm not looking for it. I just want to get there.
Yeah. Nice.
What about you? Did
Um,
you think of any travel bookings recently?
I didn't book anything for myself this past week, but I helped other people book stuff. So P2 has to go to New York for something. I booked it with my Amex Platinum that I recently opened because, and normally I wouldn't use this card for flights, but I'm working on minimum spend. Also, with that card, you get the annual $200 airline incidental fee credit. But you can also trigger it when you book like lower cost, like around $100 tickets. So I did this earlier in the year as well. I chose JetBlue as the particular airline that those airline incidental fees will be for, and it can only be for that airline. I looked up which flights to get. I was going to be on JetBlue. So right before booking the flights, I went into my Amex account and selected JetBlue as my airline for that card. And then I went and booked, I was going to book it round trip, but then I wanted to split it up into smaller amounts. I booked the two trips on the Amex Platinum to both trigger the credit, which will help me pay down the annual fee on that card, as well as work on my minimum spend. And then I had another set of family members, family of four from the Bay Area, trying to get to Europe in the summer, peak travel time. But because they hadn't booked anything yet, they're actually able to take advantage of both the Virgin and Air France transfer bonus coming from Chase. They only have Chase points. Otherwise, I wouldn't really recommend people use their Chase points for flights. I prefer using all the other transferable currencies. But they have a pretty good stash of Chase points. They want to go to London and Paris. And so going to Paris on Air France, I think it was something like 18,500 per person before the transfer bonus, which is 25% off. And then same with Virgin. I think Virgin was 25K coming back London to Vegas. So they'll have to position back home from Vegas. But it was 100,000 for four people. So knock that down to 75,000 for four people with the transfer bonus. I think that's really amazing for their first redemption. I did one of their cents per point calculations and it was like 9 cents per point for their first redemption ever.
Wow, that's incredible. And for economy?
Yeah. It's all in economy. Yeah. For some reason, the flight back home from London to Vegas was pricing out at like over like $1,500 per person, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like on the international itineraries, one-way prices can be, all over the place, especially during
Yeah.
summer,
Hmm.
especially flying out of London.
Yeah. Yeah. Taxes and fees weren't that low. It was like 1,200 for the four of them.
Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah, still a steal if you're saving,
Yeah.
if you're getting like tickets worth 6K.
Hmm. Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I want to switch gears going into the next segment, which is what went bad for us recently. So I helped one of my friends to book Air India business class from Delhi to London and then United Business from London to San Francisco. And this is one of the newer planes with Air India. So I was actually really excited
Mm.
for them to try out the new suite on the A350. Well, I don't know if you have heard, but there are these political tensions in India right now that lead to flight delays and even changing some of the flight times. And so what happened was instead of having a 3 hour layover, now they were going to be having less than 30 minutes of layover in Heathrow. And that's not good. I had to jump on the phone, try and see if there are any other alternatives that they can confirm the change rather than hoping for it, hoping for the airline to do their best. And I had booked it through Air Canada. I initially thought maybe because this is within 24 hours of departure, maybe Air India has the ability to switch like a same day change or something like that. Perhaps United can help out. So I did first call Air India, and to my surprise, like earlier, whenever I've called them, they've picked up in like within 2 minutes. And this time they didn't pick up not just once, but thrice. And I waited for like 15 minutes. Anyways, I was doing my morning chores in the kitchen and
Yeah.
I didn't mind the hold, but then I was getting a little frustrated because I wanted to start my day. And these things can be a little tricky, especially a few hours before the departure. So I called Air Canada and I was able to talk to them. They said that they will be able to do that at the gate and I would have to request Air India. So I was at the mercy of the gate agent to be able to do all of that. Well, that's all about the bad part. The good part over here is that they were able to switch to a later flight from London to San Francisco. Luckily, United has 3 flights daily, and this was one of the first flights that they were going to get on. So they were able to switch it to a flight 2 hours after.
Nice. Okay, my turbulence for this week has some of the same players in it. So I noticed I had received an email from Air Canada that there was a flight schedule change for my upcoming Air India flight. I am flying that new suite product from no, Newark over to Delhi. Really excited about that. But yeah, there was a schedule change. Instead of like 11 in the morning, it got shifted up to 8 in the morning. And I wanted to go into Air India or into Air Canada's site just to confirm all the timing. And when I pulled it up, I could see the booking, like the PNR was there, but when I clicked manage booking, I would just get like a big white page that said error. And then when I put the PNR in the Air India site, it wouldn't pull up at all. Like the booking reference wouldn't pull up, the ticket number wouldn't pull up. So I was getting really nervous, like, do I have a flight or not? Because when I search for alternatives, like there are no alternatives for like around the dates that I'm looking to travel. I didn't know who to call, if it was an Air India issue or Air Canada. I ended up calling Air Canada. I opted to call it first thing in the morning. It was East Coast. I figured it was quieter. I had called the day before and I was on hold for a while. So I tried again the next morning, got on with someone pretty quickly. It took them about an hour to resolve. I think they had to like reissue the ticket or something, but in the end, I was able to manage the booking again on Air Canada and then pull it up on Air India again because I wanted to check the seats to make sure like my seat selection was still good. Still 1A, so all good.
Wow, that was a
Um,
pretty similar case. And I just
mhm,
want to add one thing that, people on the internet show that this is like a great way to travel, etc. But behind the scenes is what really we want to know, right? Because you spend almost an hour that day
mhm.
to resolve it. And then you had also called them the day before. So you probably spent more than an hour in total just for this
Yeah,
simple query. Let alone the fact that you had to look up the tickets and search for a redemption, things like that. And I also probably spend close to 1.5 hours in the morning on a weekday,
yeah,
which is not ideal. So I just want to
yeah.
highlight that this is something that, be prepared for in case something goes wrong. And flexibility is the key. If you are not flexible in travel, then I don't know what to say. I would probably just do the regular old way and not think about credit cards.
Yeah, that's so true. Flight schedule changes happen all the time. And like sometimes we hope for them, right? Because that is an out for us if we were actually looking to cancel the flight. That allows us to cancel it for free or look for a better time. So the further out you book, the more likely there's going to be some kind of schedule change that may or may not work to your advantage. Every time that comes up, it's an opportunity. I do try to pay attention to that. And then I'm actually not even done with this like issue or change because they shifted my flight up to 8 in the morning. There's no way I can get to JF by 8 in the morning on the same day. So I actually had two positioning flights booked for that morning. Two, because just in case there's something that goes wrong with the first one, it gets delayed. I still have the second one, both like totally refundable. I keep getting alerts from TripIt saying that the price has dropped and I should rebook. And I was like, no, that's like the basic economy rate that is not refundable. Now I do have to cancel both of them and book something the night before in a hotel. So that is some of the headache that comes with positioning, but I want to fly that sweet product. So I'm willing to deal with it.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. See, this is yet another example of what goes behind the scenes. Right. What's
Totally.
next? So I want to talk about this cool way to accrue Amex points when you're opening a Chase credit card. And what you would do is link up your Amex membership rewards earning cards with Rakuten, which is a shopping portal. That way you will earn Amex points instead of the cash or the check that they send. Then use the Rakuten's link to earn up to 30,000 points for opening the Chase Sapphire Preferred card. Well, they also have amazing offers for opening the no annual fee Chase Freedom cards. Yeah, those are some of the good highlights. Although by the time this airs, I'm not sure if this would be available, but doesn't hurt to check again.
So this was a surprise, right? I don't think there's any history of Rakuten offering something like this for opening up a new credit card. They have some offers for opening like checking accounts and money market accounts I've seen before. This is the first time I've seen it with Chase. And this particular week is an annual event that Rakuten does where there's a lot of elevated offers. So you'll see like 15% back, if you're earning Amex points, it's like 15x or 15 points per dollar spent, which is really lucrative. I think in the past I'd seen like 20%, which I'm not really seeing this week. But I feel like this Chase offer is a part of this week. I was also very worried that the offer would be pulled at any time. So I actually took advantage of this yesterday because I have been waiting. I'm way overdue for a new Sapphire card. I had the Sapphire Reserve as one of my very first cards, held it for 6 years, which is too long because in the beginning you could turn the card, close it, and open it again. And then they added a rule where you could only earn the sign-up bonus every 48 months. So I was like way past the 48 months. About 18 months ago, I had product changed around my renewal. So I let the card renew. I used up all the credits, like the $300 annual travel credit. At the time, there were those Instacart credits. So I used those all up. And then I downgraded the card to like a Freedom Flex, which unfortunately that means it went from a Visa to a MasterCard. So I got a different card number. But if you downgrade to a Freedom Unlimited, you would keep the same card number. Anyway, so that would allow me to sign up for another Sapphire card when there's an elevated offer. There historically has been an elevated offer around this time each year, like May, June-ish. I just was lazy and didn't do it last year, which is okay because this year's offer is even better, 100K. So I was ready to open this card. I was waiting till the very tail end, like Sunday, which is the 11th. And we know that the referral offer on the Sapphire Preferred ends on the 12th. I was waiting till the 11th because I'm like within a 30-day window of my last Chase Inc. application and approval. I just like couldn't pass up this Rakuten offer. So I applied yesterday. It hasn't been approved yet. I'm guessing I'm going to have to call reconsideration, but that would be a huge win to get 100,000 Chase points plus 30,000 Amex points for opening a single personal card.
That's incredible. And I just want to clear up one thing. You mentioned the downgrade technique that people often do, which is called churning. Do you get the annual fee back?
If you do it within 30 days of the annual fee hitting or like showing up on your statement, yes, you will get the annual fee back.
Oh, that's great. So you were able to use the credits and also to not pay
Hmm.
for the fee. So amazing.
Yeah. And actually, I wish I had, well, I didn't have a Freedom Flex yet, so I think that was the right move for me because I wouldn't have wanted to take up a 5/24 slot, which is Chase's rule that if you've opened five or more personal cards across any banks in the last 24 months, they'll just automatically deny you for new cards. I didn't really want to take up one of those slots for a Freedom Flex, but if I were doing this now, like this time around, I think I'll product change the Sapphire into old school Freedom card. When you call it like the Freedom card that earns ultimate rewards points. It's not publicly available anymore for new applications.
Oh, but you can still product change? That's cool.
Yeah. And it has like the quarterly categories.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we can talk more about it in one of the next episodes
Yeah.
and go through some of the card talks. All right, that wraps up this week's episode. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and drop your travel wins or fails into the comments. We really love reading those.
And we are going to introduce a new segment next time, which is going to be Ask Us. So you can ask us anything and we'll answer it over here in the next episode. So leave us a comment.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. Can't wait to catch up again.